Before he was a monster, he was a child, fed by a god, feared by the heavens, and bound by the very hands that once called him son. This is not the story of a beast who destroyed the world. This is the story of how the gods created their own doom and locked it in chains, hoping it would forget. But Fenrir did not forget. He waited. Fenrir, the wolf, who waits. Chapter 1. The Hunger of the Sky. Wolf. There was a whisper on the wind the night the wolf was born. It spoke in a language older than gods and colder than death. High in the sky, the moon turned to blood as a ripple passed through the 9 realms, unsettling even the roots of Yggdrasil. In the far reaches of Jotunheim, a monstrous woman screamed, her cries echoing across the void. From her shadowed womb came 3 children. One slithered with venom, one wore the face of death, and the last came with eyes that saw too much. The gods named him Fenrir. The halls of Asgard rang with unease as Odin's ravens circled above the Allfather's throne. His one eye narrowed as he listened to the wind. 3 children of Loki, he murmured, and one shall bring about the fall of all things. He did not say which, but he knew. He is growing too fast, said Frigg, watching from a balcony as the wolf pup tore through deer bones with his milk teeth. He learns too fast, said Heimdall, noting how the wolf tilted his head when the gods spoke, how he studied their faces like books. He dreams, whispered Freya, after catching a glimpse into the beast's sleep. Visions of fire, blood, and freedom. Only Tyr, god of war, of oaths, of sacrifice, stood near the creature without fear. He is not a beast, Tyr said to Odin. No, Odin replied. He is a mirror, and we do not like what we see in it. The boy wolf and the sword hand. Tyr raised Fenrir as best he could. He brought meat from Midgard, trained the pup to listen, to understand commands, to speak the ancient tongue of men. And Fenrir listened. He understood. By the time his shoulders brushed the height of giants, Fenrir could speak with clarity, though his voice was deep and strange, like rocks grinding beneath ice. Why do they stare at me with fear, Tyr? Because they see the end in your eyes. And what do you see? I see a son I must one day face. Fenrir tilted his head, puzzled. Would you slay me, father? Tyr did not answer, but the wolf grew, and the gods grew nervous. He ran faster than horses. He snapped boulders with his jaws. He dreamt of flames consuming Bifrost. He spoke of things he could not know, of runes, of the Norns, of the last great battle before the frost swallowed all. And Odin watched him, always watched. The first chains. They tried first with loading, a chain thick as a tree trunk and cold as Helheim's breath. The gods gathered in a clearing, laughter forced, smiles taught. A game, Odin said. Let us see if our brother wolf can break what binds mortal kings. Fenrir sniffed the chain, tasted its iron. A game, he repeated. Very well. They fastened it around his limbs. Then he stood, and the chain screamed as it tore apart, links flying like shattered teeth. Next came Dromi, twice as strong, forged in fire, blessed by the Allfather's own blood. They said no giant could break it. Fenrir waited. You expect me to fail, he growled. It is but a challenge, Odin lied. Then I shall not disappoint you. He flexed once. The chain groaned. Twice. It cracked. On the third, it shattered, and Thor was knocked off his feet by the force of it. Fenrir bared his fangs in a grin. Shall I try with your beard next, Red God? The laughter that followed was nervous. The prophecy confirmed. That night, Odin sat alone beneath the stars. The fire crackled. His wolves lay silent. One of his ravens landed beside him and whispered the dream. Fenrir devouring him beneath a bleeding sky. Odin clenched his fist. Then we forge what no chain has ever been. Tyre's doubt, Fenrir's eyes. They did not speak of it, but Fenrir felt the tension. Tyr avoided his gaze. Thor sharpened his axe too often. Even the Valkyries, once amused by his presence, no longer trained near the fields when he ran. At night, he asked Tyr again, "Am I so feared that I must be broken?" "Not broken," Tyr said. "Contained. And if I do not wish it, then you will be made to wish it." The wolf said nothing, but the fire in his eyes that night was the same that licked the walls of Muspelheim. The Gleipnir plan. Odin summoned the dwarves of Svartalfheim. I need a chain no wolf can break, no matter his size, no matter his rage. The dwarves smiled. We will give you Gleipnir, a ribbon that looks as silk but bites like time itself, made of the sound of a cat's footfall, the beard of a woman, the breath of a fish, the roots of a mountain, the spit of a bird, and the dreams of a dead god. Odin accepted it with trembling hands. The betrayal is set. They brought Fenrir to a quiet glade. Tyr did not meet his eyes. "What game today?" the wolf asked, eyeing the ribbon. "That thread would not hold a child." "If you are as strong as you say," Odin said, "prove it." "And why should I?" "If you break it," said Freya, "we will admit you are beyond all fear." Fenrir sniffed the ribbon. Something in it made his fur rise. "There is magic in this." "Then do not bind yourself," Odin replied. "Let us do it." "And if you deceive me?" Fenrir looked to Tyr. Tyr, pale-faced, stepped forward. "I will place my hand in your mouth. If they betray you, you may take it." Fenrir blinked slowly. "Then let us end the game." The binding. They wrapped Gleipnir around his limbs. It shimmered like moonlight. It tightened like fate. Fenrir growled. He pulled. He writhed. He roared. The ribbon held. Then he turned his golden eyes to Tyr and closed his jaws. The sound of bones snapping silenced the gods. Tyr fell, bleeding. Fenrir howled, a sound so full of betrayal, pain, and wrath that even hell wept in Niflheim. The gods drove a sword into his jaws to gag him, blood choking his throat. And then they left him, bound, alone, betrayed. Chapter 2. Chains, forged in lies. There is no silence like the silence of a bound god. The skalds of the end times. The grove where Fenrir lay bound was forgotten by birdsong. No creature dared nest in the trees above. No roots grew near the body of the fallen wolf. Where once he ran through the fields, now he lay, still, seething, betrayed. The gods named it the quieting, but they did not sleep well. Tyr's empty hand. Tyr sat by the sea, staring into the salt water. His stump was wrapped in linen soaked with herbs, but the wound was deeper than skin. He still heard it. The snap, the snarl, the scream that followed, not one of rage, but of betrayal. "You said I was your father," he whispered into the waves, "and I betrayed you like the rest." The seagulls screamed overhead. Tyr did not raise his head. He could not. Behind him, Odin approached, cloak rippling in the wind. "You did what had to be done." "So did Loki," Tyr replied. Odin's eye narrowed. "You speak dangerously." "So did you." The gagged wolf Fenrir could no longer speak. A blade, forged in Alfheim, had been driven between his jaws, propping them open, forcing his mouth wide. Blood dried at the corners of his lips. His tongue, swollen, could no longer form words. But his mind, oh, the gods could not bind that. He listened to the trees. He watched the stars. He waited. And in the darkness of his mind, the whispers came. the whispering roots. Beneath the grove where Fenrir lay, the roots of Yggdrasil twisted. Some said they reached all realms. Some said they reached all fates. And from below, deep, deep below, came voices. The dead god spoke first. "You are not the first whom they feared." Then came the serpent, coiled in oceans. "I have seen your chains in the moon's reflection. They will not hold." Then, finally, hell, cloaked in silence. The gods plant their doom like seeds, and you, brother, are the harvest. Fenrir listened. His eyes began to glow, not with fury, but with understanding. Asgard's fracture. In the golden halls of Asgard, the gods did not feast as they once did. Thor sharpened Mjolnir obsessively. Heimdall walked the Bifrost with increasing unease. Frigg woke from dreams of blood rivers and wolf-shaped shadows, and Odin sat in silence, stroking the bones of a dead raven. "What have we done?" asked Frigg one night. Odin did not reply. He simply stared into the fire and saw the same vision, himself, screaming, as jaws swallowed the sky, the illusion of safety. They thought themselves safe. The ribbon held. The wolf did not rise, but even Gleipnir was not eternal. It frayed at the edges. It breathed. It watched. And the Norns, those three seers of fate, wept quietly as they rewove the tapestry of time. "He will break free," said Urd, with blood in her eyes. "He will not forgive," said Verdandi, who touched her throat. "He should not," whispered Skuld, who smiled. The ghost of the wolf. At night, the gods heard him in dreams. They saw red eyes watching from the shadows. They felt breath like winter against their necks. They saw Tyr scream again and again as teeth closed. The wolf was no longer a creature. He was an idea, planted in their minds, coiling in their hearts. The voice that would not die. Though gagged, Fenrir's mind still roared. "You lied. You feared me before I had sinned. You made the prophecy real. You bound me, and in doing so, you bound yourselves." The gods did not hear his voice aloud, but the winds in Asgard shifted. The birds flew wrong. The sun felt too close. Even Baldur, the most beloved, spoke less and laughed not at all. The deepening dream. One night, as the stars burned blue above Midgard, Tyr returned to the grove. He came alone, unarmed, his right sleeve empty. Fenrir lifted his head, eyes glowing faintly. Tyr knelt beside the beast. "I do not ask your forgiveness, but I offer you the truth." He pressed a palm, his only hand, against Fenrir's shoulder. "Odin saw Ragnarok long before you were born. You were condemned not because of what you are, but because of what you might become." A tear fell from his eye, trailing down his scarred cheek. "If I could go back," he whispered. Fenrir stared at him, unblinking, then closed his eyes. He did not tear. He did not howl. But in the wind above them, a voice whispered, "When the chains break, you will know me." Signs of the end. That winter, wolves chased the moon in the sky. The people of Midgard said it was a bad omen. The sun flickered for an hour. The seas grew restless. And the stars moved. The gods began to whisper of Ragnarok again. But Odin, seated upon his throne, only clenched his spear and murmured, "Not yet." The dwarves, warning. In Svartalfheim, the dwarves who forged Gleipnir felt a ripple in the weave of the world. "It frays," said the eldest smith, his hammer trembling. "It stirs," whispered another, forging in the dark. "It watches," muttered the youngest, who refused to sleep. They sent word to Asgard, but no raven returned. The first tremor. It was small, a twitch in the ribbon, a flicker of golden light across Fenrir's fur. But it was enough. The gods felt it like a plucked string through the bones of the world. Odin turned to Heimdall. "We prepare for war." "Against whom?" Heimdall asked. Odin's eye closed. "Against prophecy." Chapter 3. The Wolf, Beneath the World. A god can cage a beast, but not its becoming. Hel, queen of the dead roots, like veins. He could no longer speak, he could no longer run, but he could feel. And beneath Fenrir's chained body, the world throbbed like a living wound. The roots of Yggdrasil, ancient and unknowable, pulsed beneath the soil. They drank from the well of fate. They trembled with secrets too vast for language. And through them, Fenrir listened. He did not hear voices, he felt them. Time passing like a cold river, dreams blooming like fungus in darkness, the taste of things to come. And he changed, not in body, but in mind. The rust of time. The sword jammed between Fenrir's jaws, once a shining relic of Alfheim, had begun to rust. The gods didn't notice, but Fenrir did. Every flake of oxidized metal that touched his tongue became a seed, a reminder, a countdown. He did not rage, he did not roar. He waited, and in waiting he learned everything. The dreams of the dead. In Niflheim, Hel stirred. One half of her face was maiden, the other rot. She felt her brother's thoughts like a storm on the edge of her skin. "They think him still an animal," she whispered to a shade. "But his mind has walked the voids they dare not look into." The dead listened. "He is no longer a prisoner," she said. "He is a prophecy in flesh." Odin's descent. In his high hall, Odin no longer trusted his dreams. He had plucked out his eye for wisdom. He had hung from Yggdrasil for 9 days. He had spoken with the dead. But he had not foreseen this. A bound wolf whose mind defied silence. In desperation, Odin did what even he feared. He descended into Mimir's well, deeper than before, where the price of truth was not an eye, but memory itself. "Show me the thread," the well whispered, a voice like stone and steam. "You cut it when you caged him. The moment you bound the wolf, you let Ragnarok begin." Odin screamed as the truth split his thoughts open. Visions spilled from his mind. A sky torn in half, wolves devouring stars, Fenrir's jaws closing not just around him, but around fate itself. When Odin emerged, he wept. "We have not stopped the end," he murmured to Frigg. "We built it." Tyr's final oath. Tyr stood once more at the edge of the grove. The trees no longer whispered, they watched. He looked upon Fenrir, chained, silent, still, and dropped to one knee. "I do not ask forgiveness. I ask that when you come for us, you begin with me." He placed a dagger at the wolf's feet, an offering, not to kill, but to be seen. And in the stillness, the wolf opened one golden eye. Not hatred, not fire, just understanding. Tyr wept. A whisper between realms. That night, across all 9 realms, a whisper passed through the air like frost. "He wakes." It reached Midgard, where men forgot the old gods, but dreamed of wolves beneath their beds. It touched Vanaheim, where the winds howled without cause. It slid through Muspelheim, where even Surta paused mid-flame, and deep beneath Niflheim, Hel smiled. "The silence is cracking," she said, "and he remembers everything." The wolves chase high above, in the skies of Asgard. 2 lesser wolves, Skurl and Hati, chased the sun and moon. It had always been so, but now they ran faster. The sun began to stagger, the moon flickered. Mortals called it eclipse. The gods called it a sign. Only Heimdall spoke it aloud. They chase because he remembers. A shift in the chain. One morning, Gleipnir moved. It shivered. A tremor ran through it like the last breath of a sleeping beast. The gods who watched the grove saw nothing, but Fenrir felt everything. The magic in the ribbon was weakening, not from force, but from age. Time was not on the god's side, it was on the wolf's. Visions of the end. In the temple of the Norns, the tapestry of fate twisted. Urd wept silently. Verdandi stitched faster. Skuld, youngest, cruelest, laughed. "He is no longer part of the prophecy," she said, snapping a thread. "He is the prophecy." And in the thread she rewove, Fenrir stood not as prisoner, but as king. The last feast. Odin declared a feast in Valhalla. One final joy before the long dark. The Einherjar, the chosen dead, drank. The gods toasted with tight jaws. No one spoke of the grove. No one mentioned the rusted sword. No one asked why the wind howled against the walls. And as Odin raised his goblet, a flicker of gold passed through his mind. A mouth, a roar, an end. He drank anyway. The night, the trees, bled. The next dusk, crimson sap oozed from the bark of every tree around the grove. It smelled like iron. It ran like prophecy. A raven landed on Odin's shoulder and whispered, "The ribbon has cracked." Odin turned to Thor. "Ready your hammer." "To fight him?" "No," Odin said. "To delay the sky from falling." Chapter 4. The maw that ends the world. They feared his hunger, so they fed it with betrayal. Unknown. Skald. Post Ragnarok. The third tremor. The gods felt it before they saw it. A pulse through the roots of Yggdrasil. A cracking in the air itself. A quiet groan, like the breath of fate turning over in its sleep. In the grove, where the wolf lay chained, Gleipnir twitched again. Only this time, it didn't stop. The snap. It didn't break with thunder. It broke with a whimper. A soft sound, like cloth torn in a lover's hand. Then came the silence. And then, the growl. Low, ancient, close. Birds fled the grove. The sky dimmed. Fenrir stood. The sword falls. The rusted sword that had gagged him for an age fell from his jaws like a broken promise. He took his first full breath in centuries, one that pulled the frost from branches, the warmth from the wind, and the courage from any god still watching. And then he howled. The sound shattered mirrors in Alfheim. It cracked towers in Midgard. It silenced drums in Valhalla. Odin heard it. So did Tyr. The sky burns above. Skull and Hati caught their prey. The sun fell. The moon followed. Daylight died without a fight. The world turned red. In Muspelheim, Surtur rose with his flaming sword, sensing the call. In Niflheim, hell opened her gates. The end had come. The wolf marches Fenrir walked through the grove, no longer hiding his shape. He was not the pup Tyr raised, not the chained beast the gods feared. He was inevitability. The grass withered beneath his steps. The trees bent away from him. His eyes, once curious, now held certainty. Tyr waits. Tyr stood in the temple courtyard, swordless, sleeveless. He had taken off his armor, not to surrender, but to meet what he had created. When Fenrir appeared, Tyr did not flinch. "I am ready," he said. The wolf stared at him, golden eyes steady. The wind caught in his fur like fire. And then he passed him. He did not kill Tyr. Not yet, because Tyr had asked for death, and Fenrir had learned denial from the gods. Asgard falls. Valhalla's gates opened. Thor came first, thunder behind his eyes. He charged, roaring. Fenrir met him head-on. Mjolnir struck the wolf's skull. But Fenrir did not fall. Instead, he laughed, a sound like breaking bones and echoing storms. And then he lunged. Thor was strong, but Fenrir was the end. The All-Father's last stand. Odin stood upon the battlefield, spear in hand, cloak billowing. He had seen this moment 1,000 times, had tried to delay it, Chain it. Forget it. But prophecy was not a line. It was a circle. And the circle had closed. I named you son, Odin said. I fed you. I gave you speech. Fenrir's reply came not in words, but a step forward. You feared me before I had teeth. They clashed, father and forsaken, wisdom and wrath. Odin struck true, Gungnir buried deep. But it was not enough. The wolf's jaws opened wider than the sky, and he swallowed Odin whole. The silence, after the battlefield stilled. Blood soaked the stones of Asgard. The gods, broken and breathless, knelt or fell. Fenrir, belly full of gods and fate, turned his head skyward. He did not howl. He simply watched the stars fall. The final oath. Tyr appeared beside him. He bore no weapon, only the dagger he had left years before. It's over, he said. Fenrir did not strike. He lowered his head. And Tyr, without flinching, drove the dagger between the wolf's ribs. It sank deep, but Fenrir did not die. Instead, he leaned in, blood trailing from his side. You were the only one who looked me in the eyes. Then, gently, he opened his jaws and crushed Tyr's throat. Not in rage, but in respect. The wolf who walked. As Asgard burned, Fenrir walked away, through broken gates, through shattered worlds, through smoke and stars. He was not king. He was not God. He was what comes after. And as he vanished into the ashes of the old world, a voice, perhaps the wind, perhaps something else, whispered. He waited, and they gave him every reason. Do you think the gods were right to fear Fenrir? Or did they create their own doom? Comment your answer and let us know who you'd side with, the gods or the wolf.